Welcome back to The Explainer. So let's talk about something we've literally all dealt with at some point. Whether it's a close friend, a partner, or even a coworker, dealing with someone who is just highly emotionally volatile feels exactly like walking through a psychological minefield. You desperately want to help them, right? But so often, your words just seem to make the whole situation worse and trigger an even bigger explosion. Well, today, we're going to learn how to actually navigate that minefield safely. We're unpacking a really powerful toolkit designed to de-escalate high-tension situations and bring people back to reality. Think about this. How do you stop a full-blown mental breakdown or a really explosive argument with just one single sentence? Honestly, it sounds almost impossible, doesn't it? Because when someone is shouting or visibly distressed, our human instinct immediately tells us to match their energy. We naturally want to push back. We want to defend our position, raise our own voices. But as we all know, pushing back just adds fuel to the fire. Okay, let's dive into this. The real secret to calming the storm, it's all about pulling, not pushing. In this explainer, we're going to explore the psychology to figure out what pulling instead of pushing actually looks like in practice. Now, we aren't here to diagnose anybody. Instead, we are here to build a practical toolkit of 7 psychological triggers that will genuinely help you stabilize someone who is right in the middle of emotional chaos. Section 1, Walking Through the Minefield. So when you first step into an emotionally unstable situation, that initial blast of emotional chaos is without a doubt the most dangerous part. You absolutely need a strategy to safely navigate that shockwave before you try to do anything else. And that brings us to trigger number 7, validation without agreement. Essentially, this means validating a person's feeling without actually confirming their facts are correct. See, the biggest mistake we tend to make in an argument is trying to use logic against an unstable person. But here's the harsh reality. Logic does not work when the house is on fire. You literally cannot reason with a blazing inferno. So, what are you supposed to say instead? Well, you say something like, "I can see why you're so angry. That sounds incredibly frustrating." By saying this, you are absolutely not saying that they're right. You're simply acknowledging their reality. And here is the real magic of this trigger. Once an emotionally volatile person genuinely feels like they're being heard, they automatically stop fighting to be understood. The fire just loses its oxygen. Section 2, Breaking the Emotional Circuit. All right, so once you've validated their feelings and survived that initial blast, you need to physically and neurologically disrupt the chaos. You basically have to break the loop that they're stuck in. This brings us to trigger 5, lower your volume, not your authority. This relies on a very real biological quirk called emotional contagion. It's a human instinct to match the volume of the person we're talking to. But your countermove here, it's to whisper. The louder they get, the quieter you speak. In order to simply hear what you're saying, they have to stop shouting. Eventually, their nervous system will actually subconsciously mirror your calm state. You're literally pulling their biology down to your level. And that naturally leads right into trigger 1, the tactical silence, also known as the 4-second rule. When someone is unstable, they are desperately looking for a reaction from you to justify their chaos. The trick is, when they finish a heated rant, you wait exactly 4 seconds before you say a word. The science behind this is fascinating. This silence creates a massive psychological vacuum. It actually forces the other person to reflect on the words they just shouted at you. Often they'll start backpedaling or softening their tone just to fill that incredibly awkward gap. Wait, what was the name of that restaurant we went to last year? Did that pause and question kind of throw you off for a second? Good. If you're feeling a little confused right now, that is exactly the point. That brief moment of total confusion mimics the exact psychological effect we want to achieve in a high-tension scenario. What I just did there was trigger 6, the pattern interrupt. By asking a completely unrelated, non-threatening question, you break a loop of negative thoughts. You see, when someone is in an emotional spiral, you have to break the neurological circuit. By asking about some random restaurant right in the middle of a screaming match, you force their brain to completely reboot to find that random piece of information, which momentarily snaps them out of their emotional spiral. Section 3, the illusion of control. Instability usually stems from a really deep feeling of powerlessness. When people feel out of control, they act out of control. So we need to offer them the illusion of control. Let's look at trigger 4, choice architecture. Think about a command like go sit down. Never ever give a direct command to an unstable person. It strips their power away and just escalates the fight. Instead, offer a choice. Would you rather talk about this while sitting on the sofa, or would you prefer we take a walk outside? Both of those options lead to the exact same result, getting them to move and calm down. But giving them the choice provides an illusion of control that beautifully stabilizes their ego. Building right on that need for control is trigger 2, the I need your help pivot. Try saying something like, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by the noise right now. Could you help me understand this more quietly? If you tell someone to shut up, you're just going to trigger more instability. But by asking them for a tiny favor, you give them the alpha role of being the helper. This brilliantly shifts their brain from attack mode straight into problem-solving mode. Section 4, the FBI negotiation method. Now, what's really interesting here is how all of this borrows directly from the playbook of professional hostage negotiators. These are the absolute masters of de-escalating the most high-stakes situations imaginable. This brings us to trigger 3, reflective labeling. To understand why the FBI uses this, we gotta look at the brain. When we pit the amygdala, which is our fear center, against the prefrontal cortex, our logic center, the fear center is entirely in charge during a volatile moment. But when you correctly label an emotion that they are feeling, the brain's fear center actually slows down, and the logic center is forced to turn back on. But exactly how you do this is absolutely critical. Never say, I understand. In a volatile situation, saying I understand usually just sounds dismissive. Instead, you say, it seems like you feel betrayed by what happened. Notice that phrase, it seems like. This specific phrasing, pulled straight from the FBI method, correctly identifies the feeling and literally strips the power away from the emotion. Section 5, setting your healthy boundaries. And this brings us to our final, and frankly our most critical point, protecting your own mental well-being in these highly stressful scenarios. We've now built a complete 7-trigger arsenal. We've covered tactical silence, the help pivot, reflective labeling, choice architecture, lower volume, the pattern interrupt, and validation without agreement. But it is so vital to remember that using these isn't about manipulation. You aren't trying to trick someone for your own gain. These are very specific tools designed to create a bridge back to sanity for someone who is completely lost in an emotional storm. However, here is the ultimate disclaimer, and you really need to hear this. You are a friend or a partner. You are not a psychiatrist. If someone in your life is consistently unstable, the absolute best and most important psychological trick you can deploy is setting a firm boundary and encouraging them to seek professional help. Your own mental health always has to come first. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Which of these triggers are you going to try first the next time you find yourself stuck in an emotional minefield? Navigating these situations definitely takes practice, but with this toolkit, you are now prepared to pull instead of push. If you found the tactics from today's explainer useful and want to keep building your knowledge, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And please, jump into the comments and let me know, which of these tactics have you actually tried before and how did it work out for you? Keep learning, stay focused, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.